Awesome. Well, let's move on to the main event of the evening. We have Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria. Alexander Volkanovski, 26 and 3, 3 and 2 in his last five, coming off that head kick KO loss to Islam Makhachev, coming on short notice there. Fighting against Ilia Topuria, 14 and 0, 5-0 in his last five, coming off of that decision beating win over Josh Emmett. Looking at the odds for this fight right now, Volk is minus 132, opened up at a minus 170. Yeah, that this will be I think, an interesting main event. Gerard, I'll let you go ahead and kind of start first as well. What do you think about Volk versus Topuria here?
So Alexander Volkanovski, I think he is kind of hard to base off the analysis off his last fight because that was short. That was a short turnaround, and he didn't really have a camp for Islam. Um, and he looked phenomenal against Yair Rodriguez, who had more striking danger in his compared to all of his other fights. Um, this is a 35-year-old goat. 35-year-old Volk is a 35-year-old goat. So I don't know how how much of that age factor is overhyped or not overhyped. As far as Ilya, he does have dangerous boxing. Volk has kickboxing and grappling to mix around there, and he's done pretty well himself. Topuria, the question is if Topuria, for me, is if Topuria can land that big shot with that dangerous boxing he has. And against Volk, I don't know. That I'm still not sure if he can land a big shot on Volk, even at 35, because Volk has been in there with Max Holloway multiple times. He has experience against great boxing, but Topuria does have the power. So I'm still not sure though if Topuria can land that big shot. And when I compare these two, I'm looking at Topuria's his record, and I'm not sure if he has a win or a fight that has prepared him for 5 rounds with Volk. And I'm curious to see what Topuria's plan B will be if he can't land that big shot. Because if it's just that shot and one and done, then it might be Volk might just walk away with the belt again. And originally I was leaning Topuria, but I think I'm flipping back to Volk at 35, even though this goes against my initial thoughts on this fight. Um, and it seems like Topuria might be a little bit overconfident recently in his everything that we see online, and he might be looking past Volk already. So that's not a good thing to see, especially when you're going up against not your average 35-year-old. Um, for me personally, I think I'm leaning Volk, but to be honest, I'm probably gonna just pass on this fight because I wanted to pick Topuria, but I don't know. Just comparing everything and analyzing this, I'm leaning Volk. And if I were to play this, I think the only play I would play is maybe do the over 3.5 or the distance. But if you can find the over 2.5 line, then I might play that instead. But yeah, for me, it's hard for me to cap this fight. But I'm leaning Volk on this one.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Just from the plays and odds perspective, I think that if you're on the Volk side, I think that Volk by decision at plus 235 or Volk plus one, I mean, not Volk, but fight goes the distance at plus 135. I think both of them are kind of solid, more solid options than even just doing his money line at minus 131 right now. So he gets some plus odds because I don't see Volk finishing Topuria. I mean, he could, but I don't. I personally don't see that happening. So I think either one of those plays could be maybe a better way to play him than his money line right now. Going back to the fight, though, I mean, Ilia Topuria and Volk, this is going to be a potential changing the guard, right? I mean, Volk is a high level kickboxer, one of the goats of MMA and UFC. He's been a really dominant champion in the 145-pound division. He's been the who's of the division, pretty much undefeated in the division so far. Um, his only two losses, really, in the last few years, have been to a fighter who's probably better than on the GOAT tier, right? Islam Makhachev. I mean, I think people need to consider him a GOAT now too, just based on his record. Uh, he's been a really dominant fighter in 145. However, I do think that Ilia Topuria has a lot of similar skill sets that Volk has, especially at the age that they were, right? And that age, I do think it is going to heavily factor into this fight because what I saw out of Ilia Topuria, and the reason why he's going to be my pick, by the way, is that I think I saw enough in that Josh Emmett fight to where I saw him not tire out after 3 rounds, and I mean not after 5 rounds, and I just feel like he was still on a good constant pace, even all the way up until the end of the fight. At the end of the fight, he also did a really smart thing, and it shows me that he's not just a KO or bust or sub or bust kind of fighter. He actually was taking down Josh Emmett in round 5 because he knew that, hey, Josh still has some KO power, KO knockout artist. Let's just take him down and control him for like half a round, wear away his power, and then just lock in the decision dub, right? So that's something that shows me that this guy has a really good game plan as well because he was outstriking Josh all 4 rounds, and then round 5, he just decided to say, you know what, let's just grapple this guy a little bit and get the easy dub. So I think that just aside from their skill sets, there is one key difference, though. I think Volk, he does implement a lot more kicks into his game, and Ilya looks like he's more so just a boxer. So if Volk can just stay on the range and stay on the outside with his quickness and speed, and I think he could potentially win a decision. But I think that there just comes a point in time where fighters start to fall off, and we've been kind of seeing that with Alexander Volkanovski, unfortunately. And that was at the 155-pound division, by the way. I know it was coming off of short notice, but going back down to another weight cut at 145, usually that leads to less durability, less chin. He's going to be going down to a smaller weight class, but they're going to be quicker. The people are usually going to be more agile there, so I think Elliott just has it all. I've seen enough to where I think he's a solid underdog play. I would play him at any plus odds that you can find him. Right now, he's back to plus 111. So he was at one point a minus like 112 favorite. So at one point, this was a pick 'em fight. But I think any kind of odd dog odds that you can get Ilia Topuria, I think that's a nice value right there. So I will say Ilya via KO. Unfortunately for Volk, that's going to be my pick. And I think he's safe to parlay potentially too, or just a straight money line because that's how confident I am in Ilya that I think he'll win this just based on what I've seen from Volk and some of his comments, fighting as well. Well,
Even
yeah, go ahead.
even after Piper,
Yeah,
after
yeah,
Piper.
yeah. Even after that, because that was honestly, we should have saw that one coming. I think that this is still the right move though because we've
Mm.
seen Ilya in a 5-round fight and it was against a solid competitor in Josh Emmett. I know that people don't think he's that good, but I think Josh Emmett is really durable. He hasn't really gotten KO'd a lot, so I think it's going to be hard to finish Topuria. I think Volk's going to kind of see that, so he's going to have to be not perfect, but close to perfect for 25 minutes. Um, so we'll see. We'll see if he can kind of stay away from Ilya's power, but yeah, I'm still going with the younger guy here. I think that he'll come through this time. So